Hello to all our fabulous listeners of Movie Musings. I'm Christina reviewing Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, released to American audiences nationwide on November 19, 2010. The Netflix synopsis reads, the first installment of the two-part conclusion to the Harry Potter series finds the bespectacled wizard, played by Daniel Radcliffe, as you all know, walking away from his last year at Hogwarts to find and destroy the remaining Horcruxes, putting an end to Voldemort's bid for immortality. But with Harry's beloved Dumbledore dead and Voldemort's unscrupulous Death Eaters on the loose, the world is more dangerous than ever. David Yates once again directs. So I went in there with the highest of high expectations, and perhaps that's my fault because then there's nowhere to go from there. There's no higher peak, but it's all downhill from there, right? I'm not saying that this was a bad movie. It's just while I understand that when you're making a film based on a novel, it's inevitable that you will leave things out, that you will change things for the sake of length, or just to keep the story rolling, keep the audience interested, keep the length to a reasonable time. I feel like the people involved left out so much that I thought was critical to the story. Within the first 20 minutes, of course I'm an avid reader of the series. I try to read it once a year. Major dork, I know. There's this fight that that all the 7 Harry Potters. I'm doing my best not to give away so much in case there are people who have not read the books, but there is this major fight in which 7 people have agreed to disguise themselves as Harry Potters to act as decoys, and one of them happens to be George Weasley, who of course looks like Harry Potter, and the Death Eaters are it's a fight it's an aerial fight, and one of the Death Eaters he curses George's ear off. There's no cure for that. He's gonna have one ear for the rest of his life, and that's that. It turns out it was Snape. It's Severus Snape who did that to George, and I just thought that should have been mentioned, that Snape was there in the aerial raid, and that he was attacking his fellow members of the Order of the Phoenix, which someone sees and reports it to everyone else when they meet to their destination. They land in the borough, which wasn't supposed to happen immediately. Everyone had a specific address to go, and from there they had to use a port key. And that didn't happen either, because when Harry landed in Tonks' parents' home, they actually spoke of I feel like they had some important conversation in which some important information was divulged, but that was completely skipped or changed. There were quite a few scenes where I was expecting big, dramatic speeches and violence, and these were some of the scenes I was particularly looking forward to, like when Ron comes back. I'm really struggling not to be a spoiler alert, so let me just leave it at that. Ron comes back, and Hermione goes hysterical, or at least she's supposed to, given the circumstances of what happened and his conditions and his circumstances upon returning. But she doesn't. She just it's all like it's not to say she's a bad actress, not at all. It's just that particular scene, it's kind of flat, and again, maybe it's just the fact that I had too much of a high expectation, but it did say she went hysterical. Harry had to physically restrain her in his own way, because she could not be reasoned with at that point, which I really wanted to see Hermione cut loose like that, but I guess it cannot be. I wish they had also shown one scene of Harry at least strongly doubting himself, given how challenging the task was that Dumbledore left him, with seemingly no clues, no direction, no plan. It really started to bother Harry that he felt as though, and he started to resent Dumbledore for it, that it felt like he didn't care about Harry's life, and that he was a pawn. He didn't give him any directions, and he just said, "Here, kid, figure this out. Kill this guy, and good luck. And if you happen to die, well, then the rest of mankind is screwed." So there's a lot of pressure riding on your shoulders without any guidance. Since that happened a lot in the book, I expected at least, if only just one scene of him in one of those moments when his anger was, it just consumed him, and he doubted and hated Dumbledore in those moments. That would have been cool to see. There were others. Actually, there were quite a few more. It's just that I feel like I'm giving away too much if I keep talking about those scenes that should have been in for this reason, because it ties into the story somehow like this. And they weren't. That disappointed me greatly. Or they were changed altogether. Like Peter Pettigrew is supposed to die. I'm not saying how or by whom, by whose hand, but he's supposed to die, and up till the end of the first part, he didn't die. So it's a possibility he's going to die in the second one, but the way it was supposed to happen, because of the scenes that took place in that part, he was supposed to die then and there. That did not happen. I was like, what? What? One thing, though, that I noticed was such a big change was Ron's jealousy. That, of course, that was supposed to happen, but when he finally comes face to face with the demons of his envy, and it's like a mirage of his deepest fears of that also trigger his envy. It's a little racy, actually. I mean, it was a really cool effect, though, the smoky, hazy, somewhat passionate lovers. But that wasn't what he saw in the book. The image that Ron saw in the story in the book, it was two people, yes, and they were all dancing and cuddling, and they were beautiful in this disturbing way, but they were not naked and doing other stuff, which you should see for yourself. It's quite interesting. Lastly, there were times, okay, even though they cut stuff a lot, I feel like a lot of the movie seemed flat. And you know what? I don't really like saying that, because I love this series. OMG, I really do. So I feel like if they were gonna do the inevitable cuts to the film, they should have done it in other ways, not add so many scenes where it's just walking along lonely countrysides, because you can only see so much of that before you start to wonder, where's this going, even though you know exactly where it's going. If that was the case, then why not just replace them with more action scenes, given as though seeing that there were so many action scenes that were left out, and I expected them. So I walked out of there feeling betrayed, because I'm like, no way, this is Harry Potter. It can't be this, what happened to this and that? So I'm really sorry. You know what I think it is? I think it's the director, because it's not a personal attack, but I feel like of all the directors who have done the Harry Potter films, he tends to cut more, and that tends to bother me more than the previous directors before David Yates. I notice, or I feel, he tends to cut scenes that I think would be critical to the story and add to the story, instead of just prolong and make it flat. I'm wondering, can I go in there? Am I clouding my judgment just by thinking this before I even see the movie? But then it's like, I compared all of them before watching this one, and I reread the book, the 7th book, prior to seeing this movie. I mean, how many times can you reread a series, right? Honestly, but I don't seem to get tired, so that's great for me. Back to the grade, I give it a B+. I'm very sorry to do that. While the scenery was great, I felt like it could have used more action, given that this is the last story of this epic of all stories, and it didn't have enough that it ought to have. Of course, this is my opinion and mine alone. Well, Sriracha actually kind of agreed. He felt like it was dragging at times. He actually fell asleep twice. I had to pinch him in the nose. Not really. But if you have a different opinion and would like to comment, you're more than welcome to. Or if you have a film request that, any kind of film that it could be new or old that you want some feedback on before you see it or not see it, let us know through our YouTube channel, Movie Musings, or you can email us at christinasurajo@gmail.com, and one of us would be more than happy to do so in a timely fashion. Cheers!